Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of New Book Who Dis. Welcome, Steve. Slid in right there as we started. Nicely done,
late,
sir.
Fashionable.
Fashionably late, exactly. Welcome, sir. Welcome. Aldous, welcome, sir. I appreciate you guys coming to hang out today.
Absolutely appreciate you having us on, brother.
Oh, of course, man. I love promoting new stuff like this because this is a bit of a different book that we're talking about today. This is more of a magazine type deal than like comic book, graphic novel type thing that I usually promote. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about this. But let's say hi to the chat. We got a Frog G doing what he does, dropping those links. Appreciate it, sir. Links are also in the description of this video for my two guests this evening. Make sure you check out the campaign. Obviously, that's what we're here to talk about this evening. But check out the Twitter pages and the YouTubes as well. Frog G says, can't stay for the show, but I know it'll be out of this world. Well, thank you, Frog G. I appreciate that. And yes, definitely check out Frog G, Voodoo Gods and Magic. It's a fantastic book as well.
Yep.
What's up, Flying Feline? Skull, beautiful. Thank you for coming to hang out. Appreciate you being here. And then there's this guy from Orwell Lane here in the chat. You might have to watch out for this guy. Wearing those 3D glasses. You got to be careful. Got to be careful.
Reality has more depths than just vision can allow.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Oh, we got a lowered crackhead in the chat. What's going on, sir? Good to see you, man.
Jeremy.
Welcome. And 80s made consumer. Hail. Good to see
yeah.
you, gentlemen. Thanks for coming to hang out.
Still recovering from Saturday night over there.
That means it was a good opening. Hell
yeah. It's around like later in the evening last night. I was like, I remember arguing with Barr. So I shot him a DM. I'm like, dude,
oh no,
I hope we're cool. And he's like, I don't remember what we argued about. I'm like, I don't either. He's like, okay, we're cool.
Yeah.
So.
All right. If I can't remember why we were arguing, I guess we're cool. That was a fun night, says Jeremy.
It was a good time.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Be careful of Western talk. These to go on around.
I do remember arguing about that attached.
Someday we'll take our mutual, the Aldous and Steve Western argument show on the road or something.
Yeah. Are you for or against? I mean, we don't have to get into it.
Oh, we're both fans of the Western. It's just there's certain Westerns that become very antagonistic between the two of us as far as what the best interpretation is.
Yeah. Interpretation can be a bit of a.
Oh, I'm sensing. Hang on, I'm sensing Tombstone being one of them, and then the other one that they made about Wyatt Earp.
We're
point of contention.
We're more of like the Red River, Searchers, Rio Bravo, High Noon era of Western.
Yeah, the John Ford
classic
stuff,
era,
that kind of stuff. Although Tombstone is quite good, and
I do.
Wyatt Earp is quite bad. So
yeah, Tombstone's a lot better. I think Doc Holliday kind of stole the show. Like Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday just stole every scene he was in.
Yeah, it was well done. Yeah, Costner tried to do it a little bit more as a. Well,
it was an Oscar bait movie instead of an action piece, which is what it should have been. But so, question: Do you guys like mixing Western with different genres? Because there's a new video game that I saw like a trailer for, a preview for. It's called Evil West. And it's kind of like you're this badass Western like vampire hunter, and you've got like steampunk weapons and shit like that. I don't know. Are you guys purists, or do you enjoy a little experimentation with your Westerns?
I'm okay with mixing it up a little bit. I particularly enjoy bringing the Western tropes into the modern era. A modern day Western really appeals to me. Sadly, when it comes to video games, I've crashed one too many motorcycles, and after a specific end over end episode, I can't really play video games without getting a huge headache. So that sucked. That put years of enjoyment behind me. So yeah.
Can you watch videos of other people playing them?
Not much. Yeah, I get it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's really weird. I recovered enough. I don't. For some reason, I can get a little motion sick on particularly games where the horizon kind of stays. The horizon's moving around instead of staying fixed. So I don't know. I can still ride motorcycles, and I can ride in the back of a car and all that stuff. But yeah, my days of spending all night playing Road Rash or Grand Prix or whatever were sadly over.
Road Rash.
Yeah, man, I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, sadly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, if I can answer your question too,
go ahead. Yeah.
So one of the things I'm fascinated with Westerns is Westerns themselves, at least classic Westerns, the Western stories that we've all kind of come to love. They themselves are usually based on something else, whether it's a morality play. I mean, you look at, you take Akira's Yojimbo, and then how that was adapted into, A Fistful of Dollars or Last Man Standing. And the Western is really just the setting. You can drop any story into that. And then if you want to do a genre mix, Western inherently, because of the scope of it, just works for almost anything. Right. Personally, I think the Westerns work best when they're followed with a traditional morality play that sticks to kind of an Americana traditional storyline.
Sure. I can totally see that. And that actually kind of dovetail. I love kind of like when they mix Western and horror. That's why I'm kind of curious about this Evil West game, because it's it's kind of an interesting thing. Like you picture horror like sometimes in a city or like out in the woods or something like that, but being out, out west in the plains and whatnot, not really any place to hide or, you can run, but it's a whole different type of atmospheric scary,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and there were some great classic Westerns like I don't know, High Plains Drifter, that have some supernatural overtones that
for sure.
Yeah.
That's cool. I was just the chat brought up we were talking about Westerns.
We did that.
Just figured we'd spiral off on that. See, I like to start off these shows just hanging out, talking about different things, different inspirations. There's no real structure to this kind of thing.
Well, talking the Western thing too. That's one of the ways that Steve and I really got to be friends and talk about stuff was, we've got a mutual love for classic film. We've got a mutual love for all of Sturgis's filmography, all the classic Westerns. We love the same comics. We grew up reading a lot of the same stuff. So, whether it's, Robert E. Howard's Conan or, this one issue of Wizard from 1993 that had this really cool article in it. It's just, we used to chat about that kind of stuff all the time, and it naturally evolved into, hey, we love the scene. We love what Comics Geek's doing. We love indie comics. We always have, because it's the cutting edge. They're pushing the envelope. Well, now that the mainstream's trash, man, this is where it's at. This is circa 2018. So the idea kind of came up. Steve was kicking it around. Hey, I've got all this history in magazines. What if we did something? And just natural progression, man. With a Rocket One, it came together. And here we are on issue 2.
That's how it starts, man. An idea, and you build it into something. I mean, look at Inkspots and Jason with Frog G and Frog G.
Frog G,
a little spark of an idea, and just woof. That's how it begins.
Yeah. But that's to echo what you were saying. We appreciate being on, and more than happy to talk about the book and all that. But I'm cool with just hanging out. I don't. Those shows where they just hammer, sell. That's not really in my nature anyway. Yeah. So
the thing I've noticed about this scene is that we're not just selling a product. We're not just selling a book. We're not just selling stories. We're selling ourselves. We're the face of our own product. We've got skin in the game. And I always feel like it's. I don't know, behooves me, to use a fucking $10 word, to introduce my audience to the creators. Let them get a chance to get to know the creators, because when you hear the story and like the inspiration, sometimes that's it's a little more of a nudge to pick up a book. Hey,
absolutely.
That reminds me of something in my life, so maybe I'll really dig this because. I've made this connection. I don't know. Like I said, we're selling ourselves as creators, and
which is totally accurate and possibly I'll probably keep most of what I'm thinking to myself. You know, I mean, there's an awful lot of build a show, and that being a real prerequisite to it. And I'm happy enough to go on shows and all that. But
Yeah.
you know, I like making magazines. I like writing. I like editing. I like laying stuff out. All that.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it came up the other night on one of the shows that I'm not really the I've played in a bunch of bar bands, but I'm not up there swinging the microphone around.
Right.
I'm back by the drum riser playing a guitar, you know, so that's kind of,
I hear you.
Yeah. I'm not really the guy right out front of the stage shaking my ass type of guy. Usually. So
I don't know about shaking my ass. Well, at least not.
Well, I really appreciate that. Yeah, that you, guys like you do that, you know, and then give us a little, kind enough to share your platform with us a little bit. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if Aldous told you, or if you're familiar. I do a show called The Sing Along of Doom, and I take radio hits and I fuck with them terribly.
Yeah. Well, I am familiar. So, you got the voice for it, man.
so
yeah.
Well, thanks. Good. I appreciate that. But it's about having fun. Yes, I hear your meow. Yes. But I'm so excited to talk about this in particular because I used to fucking love Wizard. I was telling Aldous a little bit about this. I wanted to save this for, the show. Oh my God. I used to be more excited sometimes about getting a new issue of Wizard to pour over than I was about some of the comics I was getting. Because, they had their funny write-ups and, there was the price guide and whatnot, but the articles, it was a way to connect with these creators that we didn't have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was the same way, I mean, I was riding my bicycle down to the grocery store when the spinner racks were still a thing, kid. And, I was an every Wednesday guy at the LCS for a long time after distribution went direct. But, I was always, all the way live. I was more excited to pick up a Wizard, or for that matter, Alter Ego or Epic Illustrated, or any of those things, because I mean, a comic book, I love comic books. I love how the merge of visual storytelling with good writing, and the kind of anthology aspect of some of them, the continuing, the ongoing sagas like Chris Claremont would weave. But at the same time, I can plow through a floppy in about 5 or 6 minutes, and then I go back and look at it a little closer. But I'm a pretty fast reader, so a Wizard or a comic book, an Alter Ego, one of Roy Thomas's publications, something like that. That's something that I could make a couple of meals out of. You go
back and. It's something you keep on your desk for reference, like you go back and you want to see something that was said, or like a technique. I mean, the what was it? The drawing stuff that they would put in.
Yeah, the tutorials
and stuff. Yeah. Matt Barr says Wizard was the hookup when you didn't have the money to buy all the books you wanted. That's right.
Well, certainly I'm drawing. It introduced me to a lot of stuff that I wasn't aware of, And then the other aspect, like you touched on, is that it also, it kind of. I made this analogy the other night that when you first start listening to music, it's all kind of one homogeneous sound almost. You don't really, or at least I didn't originally latch onto the fact that there's a guy playing the guitar, there's a guy playing the bass, there's a guy playing the drums, But the individual creators is what makes up the whole. And, Wizard gave you insight that you never previously had into who the actual creator was, what his processes were, how he came to be into the genre, all those things. So,
Yeah, those long form interviews, especially in like Alter Ego and publications like that, where they really got into depth, and like Sketch Magazine. Like I remember they did this long thing with Bud Root. And just like going over his process and how he got to the style that he has, and it's just, I love that stuff. I love hearing the behind the scenes stuff and the thought process that goes into the way one of some of my favorite creators create. It adds substance.
And that's what I'm trying to do with Rocket is that very thing. Is Here's a guy, you know, and people, I might just cede the floor to Aldous because he verbalizes this better than I do. But yeah, all of these creators, or most of these creators, they go on live streams and they're 6 hours long. But you know, who knows what the hell they're talking about in terms of, you know, just random topics and things coming up and this and that. And what they don't do, and, you know, again, I understand this, but what they don't do is talk expressly about their backgrounds and, you know, their influences. Yeah, I mean, influences will come up, but, you know, it's a much more random thing. Whereas, you know, I go into these interviews with a bit of a framework and quite a bit of knowledge and research and so forth, because there's particular things that I haven't heard any one of these particular guys that I've been fortunate enough to spend some time with really talk about on the air, you know. So, you know, and then to get a good interview, you let the conversation go where it goes, you know. I don't try to stay on script, but you know, I don't just go in there and be like, hey, Art to Bear, hey, man, what's going on, dude? How was your move? You know, I mean, you know, it's not about that. You know, it's about having an idea of the underlying aspects of each individual's success and how they achieved it, you know, how they achieved both their art and their success. Because everybody that I've been fortunate enough to interview has a very, very different story. They all kind of arrived on the same page, as it were, but you know, they got there in really completely different ways, you know. So
everybody's journey is different.
Well, if you go back to like that Art T-Bear interview that Steve was talking about, you know, Art talks about, you know, his inking process, and it's stuff that he's never talked about on stream, where it's like, you know, you're trying not to make a mistake, but if you make one, you kind of have to go with it, because the last thing you want to do is go back and use whiteout, because that's more time. And you know, he kind of repeats that Kirby thing, that you always want to be moving forward on a piece. You don't want to be, you know, settling for something or trying to make it perfect. It's just got to be natural flow. And then also he talks about something that I find incredibly intriguing, and it's the kind of thing you really only get when you're doing that long form interview. And he talks, almost waxes a little nostalgic about going from the mainstream to Image, which was hot and new and fresh, and you owned things, back to the mainstream and feeling caged. And then when CG happens and he makes the jump, it's the leap into the unknown, where the only thing that you have to carry you is your own talent. And you have to have that much, you have to have confidence in yourself to make that jump. And, you know, Art talks about he didn't think twice because he'd done it once before. And that, you know, that's inspirational to read that from Art T-Bear, when you're thinking, man, if I'm out there, am I going to make the jump? And you think of all the other guys that are out there that might be looking at that. So I think there's that aspect too, that it's not just pulling things 100%. Out, but you also get that, one-liner, that hard quote, that section that moves you and just really motivates you, that now it's hard. It's there in print. It's not a verbal parlance that just dances off into the ether after it was said on the digital highway. It's got some retainment, and there's some physical aspects there. And kind of like we talked about with Unhinged on Sunday too, we live in an age where you can't trust digital media. It can be here one day and gone another. Whereas a physical book's always on the shelf.
All about physical media. Records, CDs, books, comic books, VHS tapes. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Well, and, you know, as a pulp guy, as a fan of stuff from the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s, I get a lot of guys, you can go online and read all those issues. No, you can't. There's a lot of them that haven't been digitized. There's a lot of them that have, but there's a lot of stuff that's lost to the dustbin of history. The same thing's true for the 60s and 70s independent comic scene. Go out and try to find online every issue of Mike Friedrich's Star Reach. And man, he had Neil Adams, he had Lean Wynn, he had Howard Chaykin doing just stuff that they couldn't do in the mainstream, that they were just throwing just to get it published, because it was, hey man, I want to do this. This is wild. And it's the kind of stuff that didn't fit in heavy metal. Epic wasn't around yet. Wit's End was only coming out once every 8 months, if that, depending on what Wally's schedule was. So, you know, it was an avenue that was, you know, open and available. And that's what Rocket is, man. You got an 8-page story that just doesn't fit with anything else, but it's something you got to tell, and you got to get it down on paper. Send it our way. We'll probably throw it in the next issue.
So it's not just interviews and stuff like that. There's
you were kind of talking. You like the long form interview, and Steve likes the long form interview. I grew up. I liked Wizard. I loved Epic Illustrated, because the minute you opened up Epic Illustrated, you might have had like a 2-page interview with Neil Adams, but then you had a 10-page The Last Galactus story by John Byrne.
I mean, listen, if the issues, for me, if it fluctuated between the two, that's fine, you know.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it does. Like here's the
It's
here's
the best of
first
both
one,
worlds.
and
Nice.
it starts off with. I got to figure out a better way to go through this stuff, but there's a lot of different content in it. I've got an upfront section where it's super fan art, because it brings new talent that they haven't maybe worked on a book yet, but some guys would go on. Kerr Covington did this piece, and now he's working with Alterna, and there'll be an interview. I mean, not that I had, that's all Kerr's talent and so forth, but yeah,
Right.
aside from the, we got the long-term interview type of things, like the one with Art.
Excellent.
But the next thing that happens after that is that you wind up with a shorter interview with, in this case, Narwhal, and when you turn the page,
Nice.
you wind up with 8 pages of his then unreleased. Say it.
Oh,
Aldous.
okay. So little creator spotlight, and then one of their creations. Very
Yeah,
cool.
and that's the goal. Before each one of these previews that's available, it's a page to 2 pages of introduction for a little bit about the creator. So in issue 1, there was
I
Vault
love that.
Cobalt,
Yeah.
Chimera, Narwhal
Yeah.
had one.
Here's the Chimera piece, and then
Awesome.
the next thing you got some of the story, some of this, So yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's all kind of interspersed in there. There's a lot of individual story segments and like that. Yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't realize that was the case. That's beautiful.
Yeah, there's lots of pages of sequential art in here. Some of it's excerpts, some of it's stuff that wouldn't necessarily fit somewhere else. But
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we've got a lot of the kind of stuff that you liked in Wizard. We've got a tutorial by Dean James on the dynamics of panel layout and how does he make a dynamic panel layout with his line work progression as he goes through it. We're going to have a writing tutorial on how to write a good character without making melodrama the foundation by Michael Ogden. So we get those great pieces in there in addition. So it's not just a glorified preview comic, and it's not just an interview. It's a whole package of exposure for writers, exposures for artists, exposure for stories, and to let everybody know a little bit more about you. Because like you were saying, you're selling yourself. So the more of yourself you can get out there, and the more people can resonate with something that you said, the more likely they're to buy your book, or at the minimum, check out your book.
Exactly. That's great. This is actually creating content, and it's something that is in print, that, like you said, can go back to. There is something very just ephemeral, I guess is the word I'm looking for, about stuff that's on the internet. We lose power. Servers go down, shit's gone. I mean, granted,
you can
half the
have
shit I love. If I don't
I've
have power,
had it
I can't
happen to
watch
me
movies.
many times that I've got tons of stuff on a 8 gig hard drive or whatever, and then it stops spinning, and it's just gone. So I've learned painfully to back up everything that I own, and so now I've got a huge stack of external hard drives. Some of which some of them I know what the hell's on there, some of them that I don't. But it's not. And there's also the aspect that you can't when you. I mean, maybe it is old school, but when you do a 7x10 magazine and you've got 2-page spreads, there's a design element there that can't be replicated, for a computer screen. Certainly not for somebody's damn phone in their pocket. It doesn't have the visual impact.
No, and there's something tactile about holding a book in your hand, And then when we were, growing up, kids like going through the books, like they were still printed on newsprint. The smell of ink on newsprint. I mean, that's why old paperbacks, have that unique smell to them. It's the ink on the newsprint and the way newsprint ages. I love that smell.
Yeah, well,
yes, I'm a comic book huffer. Fight me.
Well, the news not. I mean, I got to,
What's up, Dean? Good to see you.
Well, magazines for years and years, and I still want to do them because there's nothing like getting that first shipment of the book you worked hard on, for whether it was a monthly magazine or a bi-monthly, whatever, and then you've been looking at it, and you've ran out. I always run out hard proofs and look at them because you see things on paper you don't see on the screen. But still, yeah, when you actually tear open that box and there's a fresh stack
And
of
it's
newly minted
actually in
magazines, and they've
hand.
got that smell to it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. So this is the book we are talking about, Rocket Mission 2. And let's see. Let me go ahead and run the trailer for it, actually.
Commence primary ignition.
You can hear it, right?
Rocket Magazine, built to propel indie comics into the stratosphere. A modern ode to publications like Wizard, Epic Illustrated, Alter Ego, and Heavy Metal. Featuring Billy Tucci, Dan Fraga, Andy Smith, Peter Cimetti, and Mark Polton. Additional content, from tutorials to previews, from the Barton Brothers, Crowfire Studios, Keir Covington, Dean James, Rob Arnold, and many more. Become a part of the mission.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So who put the video together? The trailer, was that
I did.
Was that you?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I'll just put that together. With also, gotta always be sure to give a nod to the animation at the beginning. Came from my graphic designs guy that is invaluable resource, both for the logos, the kind of mission badge up in the corner of the cover there, some of the really nice art touches inside, and that's 3D Robin, and he's also he's a great sounding board too. Yeah, he's a great sounding board. We probably talk couple 3 hours every week at least, and he keeps me pretty lined out. He's like, that idea's a bit shit, isn't it, Steve? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's good to have people that are that can be that honest with you. You need those kind of people.
Yeah, he's
right.
my
Yeah,
boy.
nobody wants to hear about the discussions between Steve and I. They're a little bit more heated than that. But the no, 3D Robin's an old school CG guy too. He was around in the beginning. He did some work for EVS, and he is now very, very gainfully employed, from what I understand. So I haven't talked to him in quite a while, but yeah, he's just as much a part of this as Steve or I.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear. 3D. That's a name from way back in the early days of CG.
Yeah, he's basically doing something else, but yeah, he's still got a very strong hand in this. To be sure,
his work got him work.
My guy. Yeah,
being able to do the work got him work. So, all right, who did you cover? Oh,
EJ Morges, which did a fantastic job, and actually EJ gave me a bit of a push on. I'd sent him the first issue because he's featured in the first issue, so I'd send it over to him, and EJ's a buddy of mine and a great guy, and he got back with him, and he's like, I think it's great. I think we need this. When are you going to do another one? And I'm like, I'm still thinking about doing another one. And he's like, no, you got to do another one. And I said, well, if I do, will you do the cover? And he was like, I'd be honored. And I'm like, no, the honor would be all mine, but all right, let's do it.
Excellent, man.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Rascal down here. This is badass. And King Cryptid.
Yeah, he knocked it out of the park.
U.S. Assassin. She. And I can't remember her name, but that's from Andy Smith's First Man.
Help me out here, First Man. What's her name? Yeah, it starts with a P, and I draw a blank on it. Penumbra,
yes.
Yeah, Penumbra.
Yeah.
I've got a mental block on that, but that too was, Andy also, Andy backed the first issue, and I sent it out with a little note saying, hey, man,
he's good peeps, man.
Let's get you in the next one. And he's like, yeah. And then when it came time to do it, I, got a hold of everybody and, of course, secured their permission to use the characters. And,
right.
Andy's like, you can use anybody you want. Who do you want to use? And I'm like, well, I mean, First Man is the obvious choice, but at the same time, it's a bit of a sausage fest. I've got She, and then other than that, there's a lot of swinging dicks on this cover. Can we use Penumbra to balance it out a little bit? And he's like, yeah, man, no problem. So, yeah, Andy's
awesome.
Great. Andy's great. Great to work with. Yeah. Very approachable. Yeah.
He's a lot of fun to talk to as well. I had him on for the First Man campaign.
Yeah, I love that.
Good time. That's a beautiful cover. Absolute beautiful color. Colors.
Yeah, Carlos Moreno did a great job on the colors, to be sure, and helped me with a couple of subtle alterations on some of the character design. EJ did great with the available reference, but of course I sent it around to everybody, and a couple of guys wanted slight revisions because they'd updated the character over time, and maybe that was, the source material that EJ hunted up and that I provided for them both.
Sure.
Rascal's costume has changed a little bit from the original Black Flag days and that sort of thing. So Carlos helped out with did an able assist with a little bit of subtle additional work to make sure that all the guys were happy with how their individual character looked. So
fantastic.
Man. Yeah, he's fantastic colorist, and also pretty damn good with the pencil. So yeah, I highly recommend his services.
Excellent. All right. It's not letting me. It's not scrolling separately. But anyway. All right. So this is the kind of the breakdown of what you're going to be finding inside the book.
Yeah, it's kind of broken down into a standard format as far as the style of issue to issue. Mm-hmm. So it's just got a little bit of a flow. We've talked about it before, but every issue kind of has a general theme, whether it's apparent or not, and how we kind of who we put in it, why they're in it, what they're how their stories kind of theme together and fit into it. So
nice. Super fan art. Okay. Return of Ask Narwhal.
It's kind of the lifestyle section.
Yeah.
It's the of all the people that you could possibly
if you need advice with how to deal with your chick or anything along those lines, personal hygiene. I mean, Narwhal's, it's the natural, he's the guy to go to.
What was the newspaper thing that people would write to?
Dear Abby. Dear Abby with Narwhal.
Dear Nari.
Yeah.
All right, and then the Orbit, the feature-length interviews. So you got with Billy Tucci and Fraga and Andy Smith. Oh, wow. So you got feature-length interviews with all four of these guys. Five. I didn't count, I swear.
Yeah. All five
Excellent.
of them. Yeah.
And then the sequential art. Encrypted, Barton Brothers. Oh, shit. So get little sneak peeks of upcoming campaigns. Oh,
yeah. One of the things that Aldous and I are particularly, not to necessarily single thing out, but we've got some stuff from Band of the Crows that'll probably won't be out for another year yet or thereabouts. But man, it's fantastic looking stuff, and it's really a privilege to be able to put it out there in front of potential backers' eyes that and hopefully engenders some support for that book. And that's kind of part of it. There's been a little light criticism from a certain corner of the universe that, why are you doing Dan Fraga, Billy Tucci? Like they really need more spotlight. Well, I think we addressed that earlier, so I won't go on. But there's a lot of questions that it's certainly one of the best things about doing this magazine, and I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of these guys on their own projects, so it affords me some access. But being able to talk to a legendary figure like Art T. Bear or Billy Tucci for 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes. It's fantastic. But it's also very much part of the plan that, if you're a fan of Billy Tucci, if you're a fan of Dan Fraga, you would want to read that interview. And then as you flip in between those interviews, interspersed in there are creators that, might be on that level someday in terms of notoriety and popularity. But there's so much stuff out there on the scene nowadays that you might overlook something. So
for sure,
if I can bring something like Band of the Crow to people's attention that might not have seen it otherwise, So I'm going to take the spotlight from the big guys and divert it a little bit, share the stage a bit with some other guys that are extremely talented and on their way up.
You're getting the in-depth interview with the big guys, so you hear about their stories. I mean, we know the overarching stuff. It sounds like you're getting some of the underlying stuff that you don't normally get, not the ephemeral fluff that is on a live stream. It's the real deal, and that's fantastic.
Well, and all five of those guys came to the indie scene in their own way, right? So it's 5 unique stories of how did I get here. And then when you kind of go a little bit deeper, it's you've got guys like Arvid from Crowfire Studios that he's a published author and he got canceled. And now he's
Rex Mundy.
right.
published
And he got
through
canceled.
Image.
Now he's over here and he's working on Band of the Crow, and you get to see the pages from that and see what he's doing. You get to see guys like JP Plack, who, as they say, just was a fan and started making his own books, and now he's got a publishing deal, and one of his books is going to be sold. It's fantastic to see. It's those unique stories for each individual person, and then here's some of their work to get you a little bit of a taste for what's coming. And then, like I said, on top of that, you've got the tutorials and the interviews on it. So it's kind of everything's framed around that content.
Right. And don't you just go ahead and gloss over the fact that there's a little Aldous on the Farms Hollywood land pulp that people are going to get to see in this as well. So
that's another.
What's that?
Yeah, well, it's.
I'll let
Aldous talk about his own project to be sure, but I want to say first of all that Aldous is a tremendous editor and a tremendous writer, and a lot of people in Comixgate would know that. But yeah, Jay Potts, he was in the super fan art section in the first mag, and in fact did the back cover that was probably better received. Well, undoubtedly better received than the actual cover, but I don't want to get off on that particularly. But when people I've seen an awful lot of Aldous's project, and what Jay Potts is doing on that is just, man, it's a knockout. It's fantastic.
That's what I like to hear.
I'm really excited for people to see that.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty picky with when it comes to artists, and Jay Potts did a fan art piece for Nasser of all people on his little critter campaign thing,
right? And
it was fantastic. He hit the light tones I was looking for, and so I hit him up, and I'm like, hey, I've got this thing I've been kicking around. Would you mind, doing a couple of sample pieces? And he killed it right off the bat. He got what I was looking for. I listed kind of what my inspirations were, and he just killed it. And it's a classic tale. It's it's an ode to pulp. It's a little, there's a little bit of noir around the edges where the smoke is. And it's a little bit of an opening tale for a character. And it's got all the pulp classic tones, because one of the things I feel is we've got a lot of great books. We've got superhero books. We've got sci-fi books. We've got horror books. There isn't really any, I'm not going to call it a mystery, but there's not really any just ground level grit, real stories, everyday life type stuff. Sure. And to me, that's much more engaging. JP Black put it earlier today in one of his videos that, as much as I love a good sci-fi tale, sometimes the story of the guy just walking to the grocery store can be amazingly entertaining. And engaging, and that's kind of a slice of life stuff. And when I say slice of life, not the slice of life stuff you get now where they're all sitting around a table eating. It's the grind, man.
Slice doesn't mean slice of cake.
Yeah, exactly. It's the choice that a man has to make when he's got to do something bad, and does he do it or does he go a different route? Where is his morality, and what price does a man's soul have? That's the kind of stuff I like to play with. So that's what we're doing there.
That's fantastic, man. I'm excited to hear about that. So not only are you guys getting, feature length interviews with some of our heavy hitters that have been in this business for a long time and know what they're doing. You get new stuff like that is just breaking through. I mean, granted, Arvid been published before, and Alterna with King Cryptid and whatnot, but I'm saying this is the upcoming stuff. This is the beginning. This is when things start to, I don't know, take hold. At the beginning of this whole thing, it was buried under dirt because dirt was shoveled upon our name, right? And we just kind of kept doing our thing over here and kept creating, learned our lessons, took our lumps, right? And now it's starting to sprout, and things are starting to break through the surface of this. We're starting to push off the dirt and just create.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Well, and it's ever growing. Sorry, Aldous. I'll give you.
No, go ahead.
I'll give it back in just a second. But it's ever growing. I mean, those of us that were around in the early nascent days, 17, 18, it used to be really possible to pretty much be aware of everything that was coming out. But now there's such an influx, a wealth of talent that not, I mean, that's it fairly often. I'm pretty keyed in, but people will say, hey, have you seen this? And it turns out, oh, I haven't. you know.
Right.
So yeah, you know, there's so much of it out there, and you know, I wished I had room to run it all, but certainly there's a yeah, you know, if it meets up with my approval, Aldous's approval, I think it's. I mean, maybe that's blowing our horns a little too much, but it's pretty damn good if it makes it in. So,
Well,
yeah,
you know, you got to create stuff that you would read, you know. So,
yeah,
Right, and
Yeah.
that's where, you know, Steve and I are lifelong comic fans. We
Mhm.
love the medium. There's a ton of books that we, you know, will throw back and forth that the other hadn't read. That, oh man, this was
Right.
great. This wasn't for me, but man, I really liked this. But you know, when you're talking about we're at that we're at that cusp, we're at that
Mhm.
nascent point, we're starting to break through. You know, that's it. Everything that's new is old again.
Mhm.
You know, this has been done before. This was done in the 80s. This was done in the 60s. There was
Sure.
a surge in independence, but
Yes.
with something like
100%.
this, you know, back in the 80s, like when Rich and Wendy Peeney with ElfQuest, if
Mhm.
they, man, that was a book that it was hard to get. You know, we were talking
Yep.
about Harris Comics, man. They were hard to
Oh
get.
yeah.
Dave Sim with Cerebrus, man. It took him a long time before he got, and
Oh yeah.
if you didn't know, there were
Drew Hayes,
publications
Poison
out there.
Elves. You know,
Right.
I Lucifer with his mulehide graphics. You know, if you didn't know, you didn't know.
yeah,
Right. But when you're talking about the internet now and what you can
Mhm.
do, well, now we can do something like this and throw it out
Yep.
there, and you get to know those. And what would that have seen have been like? Sure, Eastman and
Right.
Laird still would have made it. Sim would have eventually made
Oh
it.
yeah.
But what about
I
there's
mean,
others,
it's a
man.
new
There's
tool.
others that should have made it. That just
Mhm.
for whatever reason, the market just wasn't there at the time, and maybe they were in the wrong state. And that's where this comes in.
Yeah.
Is just because you might be in Portland, Oregon, and you're doing a book and it just doesn't resonate with that community, doesn't mean that you
Yep.
don't have 500 people on the East Coast that want that book. And where
Yep.
something like this, you can pick it up and you get that preview and you can get engaged and get a contact to that. Find out where do I find this guy? I need to find out more.
Mhm.
And it's a direct connection. So it's that super highway to the customer that's just it's making it ever easier. It's the express lane, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you know, the thrill of I don't. Did you guys ever get going back to video games, picking up like you know a magazine like a PC gaming magazine that had like a demo disc on it? That's what I feel like the comics that you guys are including feel like. You know, you're getting a demo disc of cool shit to check out.
yeah. I remember getting I mean, slightly different genre, but the same sort of thing. Guitar Player magazine, or was it? Yeah, I think it was Guitar Player, but they'd have those little flexi disc pull-out records in there.
Yeah.
You know, and that was my initial exposure to, say, Steve Vai. You know, it's like the first time I heard that was ripping a page out of that and throwing it on my turntable and going, "Holy shit!" You know, so yeah. So you know, with being introduced to something through media, I mean, I just love it. I've always loved it. So.
There's something about physical media, especially about records. At least for me, I didn't quite get it until I inherited my dad's record collection and the record player that he had. And you know, I put on Led Zeppelin 3, and I managed to get it hooked up to my my modern sound bar with my bass and everything. And I just I sat down with a beer and I listened to it, and I was just like, oh shit.
Well, I wasn't there for it in real time, but I've got a stack of Zeppelin records around here somewhere, and Zeppelin 3 in particular. This kind of came up the other night. Something that I mean, there's. I could do a couple. I could do a couple of hours on how jacked up Pro Tools have made modern music.
For sure.
Actually recording on tape and not being able to move the beats around and actually having to get a performance out of the artists. And in fact, me and Art talked about that quite a bit. but more to the point, the album art. If you got a copy of Zeppelin 3, I believe that has the pinwheel cover on it where you twist the deal and there's different holes in the cover. Yeah, that's that one, right? And you turn the cover and different art appears, or physical graffiti where there's all the windows to the brownstone in New York. And depending on how you put the sleeves back in, the scenes in those windows change, gatefold albums. I really miss album covers, when you're talking about physical media,
it's an art form to design in the album cover.
It is, and so were the liner notes, and so
Yep.
you got some phenomenal graphic design in the liner notes of some of those awesome albums from that era, and that's a piece of what we're trying to bring back. That's where we come from. We come from a love of all of this, and we really try to pour it in to every page on this. It's meant to not just display, the creators and stuff, but also this is our kind of our what we can contribute right now. This is the best aspect for us to kind of take our abilities and pour it in to help everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's a piece with Camel Moon that I really enjoyed doing with him. And, you know, I mean, that was one of the primary questions I had for Camel is, you know, how did you get here? And more importantly, you know, you brought a fairly unique skill set within the scene. You know, your extensive animation background means that you could actually make these super cool, super funny cartoons. You know, a lot of us might have that idea, but can you actually do it? Right. Well, I sure as hell can. But I can. Yeah. I've been making magazines for 20 years. I can make a magazine. You know, so that's
hell yeah.
Bring what you can to the table.
Exactly. What's up, Rick Saylor? And just to comment on this, Made in Hell, Rising Tides, Floating All Boats works differently from what people think. Looks great, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Made in Hell. And that's the general, that's the idea of some of the guys in the comic space section is we'll hopefully, Rising Tide lifts all boats.
I firmly believe that, and I've seen that in action. When you know, I've seen that with Frog G. I've seen that, you know, I've seen this community lift it up. You know, I've seen, you know, community is such an abused word these days, but I mean, this scene, this indie.
Yeah, I think we decided scene the other day.
Scene works so much better. Yeah. That's what I've always called it. You know, the indie comics scene, because this is indie comics. This is what we do. You know, they've just, you know, branded us. Comics.
Exactly.
We just took fine. Fuck it. We're Comixgate. You know, because we create.
Right, and that's the other thing, man. This isn't, you know, we say 120 pages, but it's probably going to be more, and you know, because like with Dean, I think Steve was talking about it the other day, but. You know, we just asked for a couple of pages, and Dean just killed it, man. It's I think 6-8 pages, something like that. It's, you know, just a huge amount of content. There's nothing you can strip out because it's just exceptional quality. So we'll have to add a few more pages here and there for that. And we're not opposed to doing that. I mean, as Steve goes on and tells me postal costs, but you know, at the same time, make the book awesome, and we're not ever going to cut content for that.
Exactly. Well, I mean, you're creating. You know, this is print. This is a lasting thing. You know, it's not, like you said, it's not this ephemeral thing on the internet. It's not just a digital article. This is actually going into print. This is something that people can go back and look at. If the power goes out and they've got some candles, they can go read this interview and, you know, experience how we experienced our scene in the dark ages before the internet, when we'd crowd around the magazine and see, you know, the latest news and gossip and the fan art and stuff like that. Oh my God, this is like twanging all the different like nostalgia notes, but with all the new hotness of indie comics. I dig it. I fucking dig it, guys.
Cool.
So 20-year plus professional in the publishing industry. So I know you got asked this the other night. What kind of magazines did you work on? Oh, we lost Aldous.
Okay. Well, he doesn't need to be around for I grew up in a motorcycle. My granddad's motorcycle dealership. Riding motorcycles at a very early age, racing motorcycles at an early age. Went on to race for a living for a number of years, but along the way, somewhere in there, I went to college and studied journalism. Back when that wasn't a bad word, you know. I mean, that's
back when it stood for something.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's not something. It's not a badge that I would wear proudly now. But you know, the combination of those two things, you know, and worked.
It needs to be reclaimed.
Yeah, you know, I worked as a sports editor for the local paper to you know, pay my way through college and stuff like that.
Oh hell yeah, but, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, you know, so I've got a pretty I've done daily paper work and that sort of thing. But you know, as soon as I could get back out, I was like, do I really want to go to work, or do I want to keep racing motorcycles? And of course, you can work your whole life, but if you're going to race motorcycles, you better get that in when you're pretty young, pretty healthy.
Right. When you're spry enough to do it.
Yeah. So anyway, but it was a combination of those two things converging, and I found myself as my career started winding down on the racing level. That's when X Games was blowing up, and
right.
I was hanging around with guys, and we were jumping ramps and doing silly leg tricks and all that. And I wound up getting a gig as a managing editor for a thing called Wide Open Motocross magazine, which was pretty much devoted to the freestyle circuit,
Wow. Okay.
And then, subsequently did a couple of 3 other motorcycle magazines, world's biggest trade publication for manufacturers, dealers, that sort of thing. So it was more of an inside baseball type of effort. So that was a little different. And then for a time, I was the editor-in-chief of Watercraft World. That's, at that time was the biggest jet ski magazine in the world. Did a stint with as the director of media for the American Watercraft Association, putting out the membership magazine. It was a good time. It was a good time. Yeah,
that actually sounds like a lot of fun. All of that. I mean,
it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, various sundry. I mean, nobody wants to hear this, but basically the mortgage crisis 10, 12 years ago, really, people weren't buying motorcycles. They weren't buying watercraft. They were selling them so they could keep their house. And advertising revenues went from being a significant, if not astronomical, amount to a dribble. And I mean, it's no secret to anybody that enjoyed magazines that there's not nearly as many titles out there as there used to be.
I mean, magazines have unfortunately gone on a steady decline. Just because and
it was kind of for me, it was the nexus of 2 things. The newsstand space was shrinking. Big publishers were gobbling up small publishers and crowding out, certain things from the shelves. The shelves were getting smaller, and coupled
if you can't
with
beat your competition, buy them.
Well, that whole situation, which had nothing to do with motorcycles, but it had a lot to do with people's expendable income to buy said motorcycles.
Sure.
Threw the entire motorcycle industry, the power sports industry, into a tailspin that it's just now really getting out of. So anyway,
luxuries.
Yeah,
those are the first
at one
things that
point it
people
was a happy
part
convergence of experience and events, and then 10 or 12 years later, it was more of a downward spiral. So it goes. But
now
they were great
working on
times.
something. Now you're working on something that you're passionate about. I mean, you did all that amazing work for stuff that you researched and that you found out about and whatnot, but weren't necessarily passionate about it. I mean, obviously you like motorcycles.
Yeah,
but,
it was great to be able to be in the publishing field in a genre. Yeah, I mean, I love motorcycles more than anything, man. I mean, I'll do. Yeah, I think I may have said this the other night, but the cool thing is if you're out racing for mortgage money and you go ass over elbow and wind up having to have your leg pinned together, then you can really catch up on your comic book reading. You've got 6 months to sit around and read comic books and play guitar. So
I mean, the reading comics and playing guitar doesn't sound terrible.
It ain't all bad. It just didn't. Yeah,
the going ass over tea kettle and breaking the leg. I'm gonna pass on that though. Thank you.
Some of that. The old joke goes, if I'd have known I was going to live this long, because I got some aches and pains, but it's all good.
Oh shit! Welcome back, Aldous. So now you're working on something else that you're passionate about, aside from
it's another thing where I'm bringing together 2 lives. I really love producing and designing magazines, writing about something that I love, and I love comic books.
Page layouts, the flow of a magazine. When I was in college, I went to school for graphic design. I have an associate's degree.
There you go.
Not that any job has ever asked me about my degree once. So. Take that for whatever you take it as. But
to be sure,
if you can do the work, you can do the work. But one of my final thesis for design too was a magazine, and I created a logo for it, came up with a name, and it was focused on art. you know, like
Right on.
interviews with artists and techniques and stuff like that. And I was doing, you know, much this same kind of thing, you know, trying to express my my love for Wizard and that type of magazine. It was definitely heavily influenced by Wizard. I had just only recently discovered Alter Ego at that time, so you know. But
Right on.
So I get it.
Yeah,
I get
I'd love to see
fun.
that, man. Yeah, yeah.
I'll actually when we're done I'll dig out the boards. I actually had to paste it up on, you know, black matte board and had to have the sides taped and everything, like
Yeah. The early days. Yeah, good old paste
yeah,
tape.
man.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I'll show you that stuff after we get done, man. But yeah, I
Cool.
totally get what you mean by having fun laying out the you know, those pages. I mean, I used to have to do shit in Quark. I fucking hate Quark.
I miss
Terrible
Quark.
program.
I miss Quark. I hate Adobe, but yeah, so it goes.
But InDesign's so much easier to work with, and it doesn't bitch at you when you try to import a picture.
Yeah, but
Photoshop.
but I owned Quark, you know. and
Well, yeah. Well, listen, I own Photoshop. Like,
Oh, yeah, I
the
do. I
Photoshop
still
that
own
have
Photoshop.
Is so old. I'm
You're-
working with like
yeah.
CS6, like right before they started that.
That's what I got, dude.
As
Yeah.
a service thing.
Yep, CS6.
Yep.
If you drag it out of my dying hands, it's the only one.
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, my video editing software is from 2013. I mean, I'm using the same
Dude,
Sony Vegas that I did fucking last
you know,
Wednesday.
it's a whole nother rant, but fuck you, Adobe. Quit making me learn how to. I already know all the shortcuts with this version. Don't be ramming another version down my throat, and then none of my keyboards. You know, it's the same thing as when your phone dies and you got to go get the 2 years newer model, and none of the buttons are where the fuck they're supposed to be. Hell on that. Leave shit alone. Quit reinventing the wheel. I said, you know, I'm a grumpy old man. Shakes fist to the cloud, you know. Yeah.
Shake my fist at you, Adobe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. But let's talk about the full payload over here. This is a hefty bundle right here. So
yeah, that's everything, man. You get the first issue. If you missed out on it, you can still get the first issue. The current campaign is the first campaign is still in demand. So if you want one now, you can just wander over there and get it right now. This one, but that's yeah. I'll get it right out.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll get it right out. But you know, on the other hand, you just feel like you missed out on it. You really want to get this one, and you want to have the first one because you're a completionist. I'll send you one with this stuff. So it's mission number 1, mission number 2. It's a shirt, it's a beanie, it's a koozie to keep your beer cold, and you know, it's there's also there'll be a cover poster, and which seems redundant to produce because it's going to look like the cover. And then there's also something that 3D Robin came up with, which is mission badges. You know, I mean, I worked on the, you know, the concept of it, how I'm going to tie it all together. Basically what you were just talking about. You got to come up with a title. You got to come up with the logo. And total credit to 3D Robin. He was theme. An underlying theme. Total credit to 3D Robin. He came up with the mission badge thing, which is based on, you know, NASA. There's an Apollo 1 badge. There's an Apollo 2 badge. There's the shuttle mission badges, and they're similar, but they're different, and they're really cool. So no,
and it totally works with the title too.
The mission badge. Yeah, the mission badge kit is, you know, it's a sticker kit, basically.
Creation of logos and like themes that follow along with. I mean, it's always so fascinating to me. And Matt Barr and I've had this conversation before. Like, I kind of feel like creation of a logo and a theme like that is like archaeology of the mind. You're trying to figure out what best serves, you know, what you're going for. What best tells the story at a glance with a feel. You know what I mean?
I hate magazines where they literally just, you know, what's in here? Oh, it's got features and departments.
Right.
You know, it's like, screw that. You know, I mean, that's why I've got flight plan opens up. That the flight plan ultimately is the tutorial section, but you know, there's Launchpad, and that's where the super fan art is, and the shorter articles, the quick turn reads are, you know, and then Orbit is the big guys. And Comic Space is all the previews and this and that, you know, just so you it's a bit of a metaphor to tie it all together.
Each one of the names of the sections serves the theme, and it continues the story. It's this whole thing that encapsulates, like I said, the overarching or the underpinning theme of the whole book. I love that, and that getting the whole thing to flow together in the design, the name, and everything. I find all that stuff fascinating and fun.
It was fun.
Down to the design aspect.
It was excruciating and agonizing while I, went through various, it was going to be called Throttle for a while, because I'm a gearhead.
Is that because you wanted to throttle each other at the end of it?
Yeah, it's just, I was like, this is a motorcycle metaphor. It's not quite right. So, that's it. And 3D Robin came up with Comic Space. I mean, it's a play on the Comixgate thing, obviously, but it's Comic Space, and I was like,
we're operating in an indie comics space.
Yeah. So yeah.
Excellent. All right, so that's the featured tier.
That's the full works.
That's the full.
Yeah, and speaking of the full payload, that was Aldous' suggestion. So yeah.
I mean, again, it works with the theme. If what is it you boys said? Commit to the bit.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll play it to the hilt. You got a theme, and roll with it. I mean, you got rockets on the cover. Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna go all out, right?
Yeah, right on.
Right, and like we talked about with there's a theme as far as why are the people that are here, their stories all interconnect. Everything's interconnected, and that's part of the theme as well. The mission has a theme. The magazine has a theme. It's one complete piece, and not to go and make it sound more hoity-toity than it is, but I mean it's a piece of art in and of itself if you appreciate how a magazine's constructed.
Exactly. I mean that's the reason why magazines like High Fructose are still around, and because they engage their readers. They bring things new, try new and different things. So they go for something. It's been a long time.
And that's why
looked at one of them. I'm not sure if it's still the same, but
right. Well, and that's why if you look at a magazine like Heavy Metal, it's such an incredible disappointment. I mean, this magazine that 25, 30 years ago was delivering us Jim Steranko's in 1981 his Outland, the book that was giving us Mobius's early cuts of Blueberry and stuff. And what is it now? Well, it's just blue. It's just boobs. It's all it is. It's boobs for the sake of boobs. And there's a place for that. And that's great. But man, I look back to the days of that magazine having some amazing stories in it. You pick it up now and it feels empty and shallow and just fully commercialized. And there's a time and a place for that, but it certainly isn't Heavy Metal, man. That was supposed to be a middle finger to the system.
Different.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be different. It was supposed
It's
to
no
be
different than Rolling Stone, It's eventually everything evolves into that which it tried to, fight. So
well, I mean, what's the old adage? You either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain or the monster.
Yeah. That's spot on. We're gonna borrow that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
go for it. Yeah. But I'm again, I love this concept, man, and I appreciate the love that is coming from you guys for this, the passion, and this scene runs on the passion for the projects. I have a DVD that I got long time ago that has interviews with various comic creators, and one of them is with Mark Silvestri. And one of the things that he said in his interview was, you better love this, because some days it's not going to be easy. Some days you are not going to want to do this. Some days it's just not going to fucking work, and it's going to, it's going to kick your ass. But, if you got to love this, because it's not always going to be easy. And
I think some people, I mean, you've got to actually do something like this. If you've never been involved in the actual production of a comic book, you don't have any idea how involved it really is. And you don't need to just read it and enjoy it and, think the art's great and all that. But there's a lot of moving pieces. And I can assure you with a magazine with 20 some different creators in here, I mean, it would be a disservice to the
Juggling act.
willingness of the creators and their cooperation to say that it's herding cats. But there's a lot of moving pieces, you know. And
Well,
it's
yeah. I mean, it's a publication, but you're not just working with one creative team. You're a creative team working with multiple other people outside of. So getting something like this set up, it's a lot of coordination. You know, what's going on, Brian? Good to see you, Chris Gow.
Hey, Brian.
What's happening, man? There's good peeps right there. I like Brian.
Yeah, Brian's a great guy.
Sure, man.
And yeah, Six Gun Gorilla is I really love
book.
Six Gun Gorilla. You know, it's I don't guess I'd be doing Brian a service if I say that it's kind of been overlooked, because I don't think that's correct. It's not been overlooked, but man, more people should get that book. It's great.
I agree. More people should get that book. 100%. All right, so Mission 2 just by itself, $25, and that's, I mean, 120 pages you said, but you said there's likely more than that.
It's spilling over at this point.
Spilling over. We call that Project Creep in the tech sector.
Exactly.
Yeah. So $25 for 120 plus pages. I mean, that's a thick ass magazine with a lot of damn content for $25. That's fucking awesome. All right, so $35 for the magazine and a koozie.
Yeah, which is
And
it keeps your beer cold.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of which, I'll be right back because this one's sadly empty.
We can't have that.
Comixgater also, it requires lubrication. I'll be right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, I've just been drinking cold brew all day. I haven't switched over to any beer yet. But
it's getting that time for me to crack the first one. But we know we touched on it, but I really want to focus on like this thing the magazine's meant as the ultimate fan experience for what we can present it for.
Yeah.
And so you've got the interviews and you got the 120 pages. We've also, those previews that's the best part for me, because we're given a chance to, like an Epic or even some of the heavy metals, where you're getting that sample of somebody. And that's awesome, because you've got a couple of guys, well, even in the first one, Cobalt's book, it did well, but it probably could have done a little bit better. Sure. Maybe not enough eyes saw it. Same thing for, SOS and Testament.
Mm-hmm.
And from Chimera, and there's always that opportunity. So anything we can do to help promote and gain momentum for some of these creators that have really impressed Steve and I with a lot of the stuff that they've done, and even more so for the fan art segments. Like we reached out, and this is the other thing, man. Everybody's response that we've talked to has just been so fantastic.
Excellent.
We talked to Peter Orchard Studios, and it's like, oh man, we really love this piece. This Gymshack piece is just fantastic. Would you mind including it? And he's like, sure. What else do you want? And it's, here, there's all this stuff too that you can, just have it. Just put it in. I love it. And, getting a chance to just kind of talk to him a little bit, like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And getting that feedback. That's just so, that part of it's so awesome and it's so exciting.
Yeah. Seeing new talent, being able to interact with, and I mean, who knows what it could lead to? You never know what eyes it's going to get in front of, and who's going to see something and be like, let me contact this person.
Right. And we were talking before the show started too about the grinding aspect, right? Mm-hmm. So once you get your book out, it's up to you. I mean, your book funding is kind of, to me, that's the front door. That's the beginning of the journey for that book. And after that, you got to get out and sell that thing however you can. If that's cons, if that's online, if that's shows, if that's driving to your LCS and knocking on doors until you can get that sucker on the shelf. Yep. And man, maybe that's hitting toy stores in your area or whatever niche your book fits in. Find that area. If it's like with Six Gun Gorilla, based on an old pulp character, hit some used bookstores, Brian. Maybe one of them will grab a copy and just throw it next to some old Six Gun stuff. You never know who's going to pick it up and try to help you sell it. And something like this just gives that little bit extra bump of exposure and that little bit extra chance for somebody's going to see something that really resonates with them. Because if there's one thing I've learned, man, it's in this space, there's two kinds of customers. There's the kind of customers that once they see what you can do, they just fall in love with your style and they fall in love with the story and they're with you for life. And there's others that, man, every book is a struggle to sell, but those are a lot fewer than the other ones. When you,
Yeah.
especially in this scene, man, when you find somebody that, man, I really dig his work and I dig what he's doing, you're with him for the haul. And you see that time and time again as artists release and creators release more books. First book usually does okay. Second book grows. Third book grows. Well, that shows you that, man, that one guy can't do that, right? That's his fans, and his fans are out there promoting.
Yep.
You can only
Word
do
of
so
mouth.
much, but man, the number one salesman for your book has got to be you. But if you've got a number one B, C, D that's doing just as much as you, and they're simply a fan, that's huge and that's awesome. And that's what this is geared towards. Is we want to make sure that resonates.
100%. You know, this is a book for the fans. Love it, man.
Yep.
Brian, this breaks my
120
heart.
plus pages.
120 plus pages. That's right, y'all. This breaks my heart, Brian. And sadly, my LCS doesn't carry comics anymore. Damn.
Yeah, I lost all interest in going to the LCS. Hell, it's almost 10 years now, just because it was getting to be crap, and it's something that I did every Wednesday for years and years and years. But there was also this bit of it kind of creeping in, which is cool if you're into that. But I don't want to do table gaming, and there was even then it was the local LCS wasn't what it used to be. It wasn't based around comics. It was based around
No, I hear you, man. I hear you. The focus shifted to something else. It shifted to the tabletop gaming and the cards and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
Which is great. If you're into that, cool. Have at it. But
I mean, that's
not
what
I was
comic
going
shop.
in for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shops that just do back issues now. They don't really do new stuff. They don't have a new comics wall. They just do back issues.
Well, yeah, that to me is and Aldous is more a purveyor than myself. He's got one down the street from his office, and we'll stop in. But yeah, there is still that aspect of going in and going through the dollar bins or 25-cent bins, and every now and again you can pull out something really cool. And I used to spend a lot of time doing that as well, but it was also because I was picking up new works where I was excited about what was going to happen next and whatever stories I was reading. And it's not the same. So we'll do what we're doing. We'll do it over here.
Yep, that's what we're doing. But that's what indie comics has always done. When the mainstream, decides to put its head up its ass, indie comics flourishes. And it's one of the things that you were talking about earlier, Aldous. There's always been an underground comics scene, indie comics. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. There's always been indie comics. I mean, two of the biggest, creative. Oh, there's Aldous. We've got two Alduses.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
But like you were saying earlier,
Adobe. That's what's going on. I had to finally just shut it down. It was
shit,
making everything angry.
Okay, eating up all the RAM.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Adobe is a fucking RAM hungry beast. Depending on which program I mean, it's all like it's all RAM hungry, but it just depends on which one, depending on how much RAM it's going to eat.
For sure. Yeah. But no, like Steve was saying, I do. I'm blessed with a number of LCSs, 3 of which have fantastic backstocks and old issues. And I've got the kids trained, man. We walk in with a list, and they hit boxes, and I hit boxes, and we all flip through it. And it's a fun Saturday afternoon.
That's awesome, man. That used to be one of my favorite things to see a dad and his kids come into the shop and like they're going through the back issues and they're having fun going through the back issues.
Yeah, man. It's my
that always made me fucking smile.
Well, and I tell you, with all the digital things and between video game access, tablets, streaming services, it's hard to gravitate to anything. So when you find something that, you don't have to force them, like sit down and read, and they want to do it themselves, I don't really care what it is, man. If it's a old school Superman issue or an old school Spider-Man issue, or if it's something new, at least you're reading. But it's weird because you buy them something new and they read it once and kind of flip through it and throw it to the side.
Yeah.
I give my boy a 90s, Spider-Man comic. He reads that 17 times and keeps on flipping through it until
Pours
it's dog-eared.
over
And, yeah, man.
Yep.
There's just, even
Yes.
without knowing it, they know that there's something different. And I personally, we could go on for hours about it, but yeah, it is. It's storytelling. It's the textile feel like you were talking about with the newsprint. It's different than a heavy, slick paper.
Yeah.
It feels, there's almost something more real about it, maybe.
I truly believe that there is something more real about it. There's more life to it. Like, I don't know, maybe the coded stock, there's a disconnect between our tactile sense of the comic. Maybe that's why people love part of the reason why people love Alterna so much, aside from like the cool shit that they're publishing.
Well, I think it's that. I definitely think it's that. But there's also the aspect of Peter's putting out great stories.
Yeah,
and
100%.
I don't think you could print them on notebook paper, man, and people would still buy them just because they're fun.
Yes.
And it's like back in middle school when everybody was doing it, you do your own little comic on the notebook paper in your spiral bound notebook and, photocopy it or whatever and hand it out to a couple guys because you wanted to get that, I got to get that story. It's no different, man. We're adults and we're doing the same thing. It's just we graduated from notebook paper to digital cold press.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But still trying to tell stories. I mean, that's where the passion comes in. You either want to do this or you don't. This is either in you and it's dying to get out or it's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there's something purely American about that. If you look at like Europe's got their own scene, but there's not the foundational. There's not the foundational principle of everybody has a story. And that's the American story is everybody has a story. Everybody got where they're at their own way. And, within that, you have the nature of other stories that evolve from that because you always use your own experience. Sure. So we're a nation of storytellers. Our foundation, our history is storytelling. Mm-hmm. And comics is uniquely American in that regard and how it evolved here out of the pulps, which were an evolution from what the European penny dreadfuls. And it's one format to another. And, everybody's whining and complaining like comics are dying. Yeah. And you know what? They kind of do need to die because every time something dies, something better rises from it. And the pulps died. Yeah. And we got dime store novels and comics. And now comics are kind of fading. And the industry killed them. But something better is arriving out of it. And it's this right here. It's individual creator owned. It's guys. You go back to, we were talking about Harlan Ellison in the pre-show. Harlan Ellison fought for, IP control and owning your rights to your work. And
pay the
right
writer.
now, what you're seeing an explosion of independent properties that are owned by their creators that have no corporate or, intellectual question on who owns it and what they can do with it. And I think it's fantastic. I want to see more of this. Fantastic. I saw somebody talking on a Facebook group. Oh, it's just creators selling to creators. I don't care who's buying it. I don't care who's producing it, man. Just if it's out there and it's resonating with people, who cares?
And if people are able to make a living and not, harm themselves in making the book and they're creating something, what's the problem?
Well, hey, man, even if you're taking a loss on every book, if it's what you want to do, that's your money and that's your choice. And
exactly. Fair.
I tell every new creator, your first book, you're probably going to lose a little bit of money. But once you get that baseline and if you work hard and you're out there grinding and you've got people that like what you're doing and they're going to help you, man, you can keep on making it. And eventually you're going to make some profit on something. And that first dollar that you earn is going to feel so much more worth it because you stuck to it and you ground it out. And if we can help them with 120 plus pages of a magazine like Rocket, then man, I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
Oh yeah, and this like I was saying earlier, this is just the beginning. We've had the buried in dirt part, and it's everything's starting to blossom, everything's starting to grow. The roots are starting to take hold. We're starting to build a base here, and indie comics, my friends, and I agree with EJ Morges. We needed something like this, We needed a magazine like this, and this is, I don't know, the cards that everybody puts with the campaigns. I fucking love it personally. I enjoy getting cards with like stats and character names and stuff like that. It reminds me of going to the comic shop and getting a box of cards with my dad, and opening all the packs to see if we can get the entire set, and then trying to get all the chase cards. You know, I fucking love that shit. And this is part of it as well. You know, it's, I don't know. It's part of that whole scene that I feel is missing from the modern scene. It's part of the soul, you know.
Oh,
part
for
of
sure.
that,
Yep, it's the essence. It's the sinew, it's the interconnective tissue that holds everything together. Because something like this is, it brings all these again, because it's all independent, right? It's each individual guy owns these properties. There's no corporate overlord that's tying them together. We're doing it out of a passion for it. And that's where it comes from. We want to see all these guys succeed. We want to see everybody succeed. There's only so many people we can get in each issue. And that's the best part, man. You know, we're throwing it out there. We're going to keep on doing it for probably at least one more issue. But we need that backing, obviously, to help offset some of the costs. We don't want to completely drain the bank accounts.
Well, of course. I mean, you know, every business venture, I mean, a business has to make money, you know, in order to keep going, even if it's just making enough money to reinvest in the product to keep going, you know, and you're making it for the fans and yourself, you know. This is something that you're passionate about, want to do, and, you know, you're making it and reinvesting it in the product. What's up, and welcome.
And I know there was some question. I've heard some questions on like, well, the goal is flexible. What happens if you don't hit? Well, it's still going to print. It just the $5,000 is kind of that's what our target is. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It's going to happen. So but you know, we appreciate every backer. We appreciate it. And if you don't want to back, if you can't back, but you think it's interesting, follow the campaign. Maybe your mind might change, or even better, please share the link. Let everybody know. The best if you can't. I don't need everybody to back if you don't want to. I need just spread the word, please. That's really what we ask. And if you like what we're doing, and if you believe in what we're doing, and you think we're legit, by all means,
grab yourself one of these badass shirts. You get the Virgin E.J. Morges art from the cover without the trade dress. That's a killer shirt, man.
Yeah. And the first issue, if anybody didn't get it with the shirt, it's a high quality shirt. They're good stuff. It's good stuff.
See, I love t-shirts. I love apparel. That's another thing that I'm starting to see more of on campaigns. People are getting the idea that we love apparel. The customers love being. I personally love being able to sport. I mean, listen, I'm sporting my buddy Brian Polito, my boy. OG crowdfunding dude here. Like seriously, the Lady Death campaigns, got kind of kicked around from publisher to publisher with Lady Death for a long time, and finally was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do this on my own. That's how he created Chaos Comics to begin with. So
absolutely.
He started with a very small campaign and then just reinvested it, built it, reinvested it, and built it, and now, I mean, he's pulling in well over $400K per thing, and he does this quarterly with a couple of different IPs now.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a model that more people should kind of try to push. And, and you don't need. I think we're past the days of needing a monthly, but if you can hit it, and that's the long term goal. We'd love to be able to do this magazine bi-yearly or quarterly. We just need to see the supports there, obviously, for the market.
Shit. At 120 plus pages, like a quarterly magazine like that would be dope. If you guys, that's
the goal, and I think there's easily, I mean, we're working our way up to it because it is a matter of does the audience want it? Do the backers want it? That ultimately, that amount of demand determines what happens from here. But there's easily enough.
There's
talent.
Definitely content.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of content. There's so much stuff that, and again, granted, I had a bit more of a staff and, some assistants and some corporate credit cards and some things that made it a little easier. But, I've done monthly periodicals, for a lot of my life. So, I don't, for a year would be, that's where I'd like to be. And there's more than enough talent to, new projects coming out. It wouldn't be a problem filling it up. It just all comes down to the level of support that these first couple of missions and subsequent missions receive.
For sure.
Well, I mean, it's the beginning, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the tiers on the campaign. You've got something for everyone on here, you know. Builds. I mean, this obviously the full payload is the best deal on the page. Obviously, I mean, everything that you get here, and you know, it's you know, it's only a little bit more than the orbit tier. You know, I mean, you might as well get issue 1 with all of the, you know, mission 2 awesomeness. So, very, very well put together campaign, guys. Right to the point.
Thank you very much.
You know, some campaigns they've got some of the older campaigns, I should say. A lot of newer campaigns are starting to tighten things up a lot, and I think that's great. And it shows that this scene is learning from, you know, from past mistakes. But yeah, nice tight campaign with good tiers so that you can get what you want. You know, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. You know, we worked hard on that too. You know, but I mean, I'm fortunate that I've got some great partners in the merchandise side of it, on the apparel side. Some people that I've known and hung out with and partied with for a lot of years. Great people.
Yeah.
And you know, so and they do excellent work. You know, dude's actually a guy I used to race with, but now they produce most of the apparel for law enforcement and fire departments and so forth, and half the state of Florida and so forth. So they've been
cool.
yeah, they're great people, and so that, you know, that gives me a leg up. And yeah, if by the way, if anybody wants to know where to get their stuff made, you know, hit me in the DMs, and I can get you hooked up with a great company. But but yeah, you know,
high quality stuff.
Yeah, it's very high quality. It's very well produced, and again, they've been doing it for a long time. A wealth of different products available and so forth. But yeah, you know, I just some of those, I don't want to go on and on about it particularly, but I guess I am. But yeah, some campaigns have so many tiers and so many add-ons and add-ons. You know, I eventually get confused, and I just, you know, I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to buy this one, you know, or hell with it, I'm not going to buy anything. I don't know what's going on here. So we just tried to put it together where, you know, you can get it all, or if you just want to keep your beer cold, you know, with a magazine,
get the comic.
You can do that. You know, if you just want to keep your hair that's out of control, like, all right, when you roll onto a live stream, you can get a beanie. You know,
there you go. Yeah, absolutely. You know. Comic and a beanie, comic and a shirt, comic and a koozie. You know,
pretty straightforward, pretty simple.
Awesome.
No, and with Maidenhell's comment, like we completely understand that. I mean, the way the economy is not exactly in a healthy spot right now, let alone the number of options that are out there. This is just a presentation. You know, obviously, we'd love you to be able to buy our magazine. I get it, man. So, and that's why I said earlier, if it's not something you want to buy, or if it's not something you can buy, please at least share the link and you know, let people know, because man, you know, we can't do this without your help. The more eyes that get on this, everything helps. So we appreciate anything you can do. If you can back, great, but we certainly don't expect it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as collectors, we all understand that. You know.
Well, thanks, Scotsman.
Yeah. What's up, Scotsman?
Yeah, cheers, Scotsman,
man. Yeah, cheers.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Ain't seen Scotsman in a minute.
And yeah, with regards to Scotsman's comment, we are blown away by the response, man. Everybody has been just fantastic, and we appreciate all the praise. Thank you very much.
That's the power of good word in the scene. You know, gets shared around. People talk about it. You know, it's good stuff, man. You know, and when people are excited about something, they like to talk about it. You know, and that's, again, going back to the whole passion thing. If you're passionate about something, you talk about it. You know, you're constantly talking about it. Sometimes you'll pester the shit out of the people you love because you're excited about it. You know what I mean? And that passion is evident in, you know, this scene over here, and it's especially evident in this magazine that you guys have so painstakingly put together. So congrats on your success, gentlemen. Very well
thanks,
deserved.
Man. Yeah, really appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely,
You know,
man.
that's a
Absolutely.
big part of it. The willingness
Yep,
of guys
for
like
sure,
you
man.
to bring us out and talk about it gives us a place to do it. We really appreciate that.
Well, I mean, this is how I get to talk to new creators. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen any of my old interviews with like some of the old pros. I mean, I interviewed EVS back in the day and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I enjoy doing this kind of thing, and I didn't realize that I missed, talking comics and creativity and story and interacting with other creatives in this way. I didn't realize that I missed it as much as I did until I started doing this, and it just kind of steamrolled from there,
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoy doing these type of shows. I love talking about, and that's why my shows are structured the way they are, is because I just love having a conversation. Let the conversation flow wherever it is, and we will definitely talk about the campaign because that's what we're here for. But I like to get to know people, get to talk about like the things that make them tick, for lack of a better term,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
let them explain themselves in their own words.
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier, but I enjoy the entire process of building the magazine and deciding on the content, discussing that and so forth. But the single best thing about it is that I've been fortunate enough to, talk to guys I admire greatly, Art Bear, just to be able to talk to him about his life and his influences and how he came to be doing this. And I mean, when I talked to Art, we talked for probably an hour about playing in bar bands. It was great. I mean, one of the flip side to that is that I unfortunately am not able to reproduce. There's only so much you can fit into a 10-page interview, but it does allow me to have a fluid discussion with somebody, and eventually we get to everything that I brought to the table that I wanted to know about, and then I've got a wealth of words that takes a while to transcribe. I particularly miss having an assistant where I could pitch a recorder on her desk and be like, this is what you'll be doing for the next 2 days. But the point I'm really trying to make is it allows me to excerpt the very best bits, the things that I think are most pertinent to other fledgling creators or anybody, just readers, but they are, like myself, very, very interested in how the sausage is made, as it were.
Absolutely. And I mean, at some point down the road, if you wanted to, if you've got the audio, obviously, if you wanted to,
there are plans in the works.
Excellent, because that's one of the things we used to do. Since with last Wednesday, I had a very long interview with Mike Wolfer when he was working on Streets of Glory for Avatar back in the day. And we could only air a portion of it, and so we put the rest of it up online, for people to watch uncensored and all that, But yeah, that's awesome because I know that fans out there would want to hear the whole interview, Because I mean, we will sit and listen to entire live streams. I mean, we've had the amazing chat hanging out with us for an hour and a half here talking about this. So there definitely would be interest, in that. So
for sure. And whether we cut them up into like short form kind of style and then have the long form available, we'll figure that out. But I mean, some of it's obviously going to have to be edited a little bit. But yeah,
make it a stretch goal with like an MP3 or something like that.
I think it's going up no matter what.
Okay, good.
And I say that for a couple of reasons. Is, as a lot of people know, like I'm really big into the history and the importance of understanding where we came from. And to get a guy like Billy Tucci or Dan Fraga or Peter Cimetti or Mark Polton or Andy Smith and get them on record saying some of this stuff. Yes, it's a digital, and yes, it's on YouTube. But we have the hard file, and I can throw it. We can throw it up on Odyssey. We can throw it up on Rumbler, and we always have it, and it's out there. And you've got a printed copy, and then you've got the whole interview context behind that. That if you're a huge fan, you can go and check it all out, and that's beneficial for everybody. Because there's going to be things that Tucci might say in that interview that nobody's ever heard before. We don't know, but if we can get it out there and record it, that's fantastic. And, we were very fortunate that about 7 years ago, there was a gentleman with a cell phone at a Comic-Con, and he happened to be recording a Jim Steranko panel. And Steranko went on and told a story about Wally Wood that he's never told before of or since. And the only reason we have it is because that guy recorded it and uploaded it to YouTube. And it's one of the few times where Steranko really gets into like how rough it was for Wally at the end.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because you hear the emotion in this man's voice. And Steranko's a man's man.
Oh yeah,
and
Steranko's a tough old bird. Like,
and he kind of chokes. He doesn't break down, but he kind of chokes up a couple of times when he's thinking back to how his friend was in his last days.
Exactly.
And that there's a little bit of there's something special there, but it's also like one of those private moments where, like, man, am I a voyeur for watching this? But it's important because you're getting a different aspect of the story than you've ever heard before. Because here's a man that was really close to him, and whether anything like that weight comes out of any of these interviews, probably not. But you never know. You never know when you're going to sit down with somebody. And so if we catch something like that, definitely we're going to try to put it up. And that's one thing that Steve and I have both talked about, that once this gets in the can and we're getting it ready to ship out, we're going to figure out how we're going to handle that, or maybe before. It depends on just time scales and where everybody's time is. I mean, I've got a real life business that I'm trying to run, so it all depends on how things go.
I mean, real life always comes first. You got to take care of that real life, But this magazine is coming together great, guys. It looks fantastic. I think it's going to be a real treat when people get it, and I'm really glad that Mission 1 and 2 are available in the big perk up here.
Yep, and Mission 1's available as well as a digital add-on to this. It's really the only add-on we have, but the campaign for 1 is still open. So if you want to check out 1 right now, you can go over to Indiegogo and check out Rocket Mission 1, and if you get it today, it'll ship out this week.
That's awesome.
We kept it open for that reason, that this one's got Fraga and Polton and Tucci and Smith and Smetty, but the last one had Donnell and Weathers and Thiebair and Cecil and Malin, and I know everybody's not a Cecil fan, but the Cecil interview in issue 1 it's fucking amazing. It's insight into Cecil that you've kind of never gotten before. And that Art Thiebair interview is fantastic. The Malin interview is solid. I mean, all these interviews are good, but it still needs to be available and it needs to be out there. And each issue we do, we're always going to offer the back issues. If we have them, we might have to do a reprint of 1 at some point, and we'll probably swap covers or something. But this stuff needs to be out there, because if you're just getting in now, if you missed out on 1, we need to make sure you get 1, because there's each issue, each mission is special in its own right.
Yeah, and and it was really gratifying, the reception
that
the first one got, and I don't think that I had anybody that got it. If they were disappointed, they haven't made me aware of it, which is pretty special to me. And,
ain't nobody been complaining to my face.
Yeah, well, I got a lot of excellent feedback on it, and awesome. It was, in selling the first one, it's like it's me waving my hands around the air, saying, "Yeah, it's like Wizard, it's like Epic Illustrated, it's kind of this and that." But yeah, if you have any doubts and you're sitting on the fence, again, the original campaign's up. You can get this one right here. It's big, it's thick.
It's a thick boy as well.
It's a good value, and I think you'd dig it if you get it, and it might assuage any doubts or fears you have about backing this next one. So that'd be one approach. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, I want to thank you for coming to hang out.
Thanks for having us, man.
This has been a blast, man. I've really enjoyed chatting with you guys. Having this conversation, and Feline says, so much talent, and shared it on Facebook.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Absolutely. Chat, you guys are amazing. I appreciate you hanging out this entire time. Go back to this. If you're a fan of the old school magazines of back in the day, in the glory days for some of us, pick up this book. It's gonna hit all those cues, and you get the latest and greatest cutting edge in the indie comics scene over here. People putting in the work and making greatness over here, making awesomeness. Filling that void left by the mainstream, just like indie comics always have.
Amen.
All right.
Nice.
Also, go check out the links in the description. Check out Aldous's effort to preserve that which has come before, with all the radio plays and whatnot. Sir, we are going to have a conversation about the pulp era and radio plays at some point.
Hey, anytime, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. Plan on a couple hours because I don't.
Subjective
shut up about it.
symposium. I have a show just for that.
Nice.
So yeah, we will talk about that. Steve, man, I had a blast talking with you, dude. Feel free to come back and hang out anytime, dude. This has been great.
Yeah, I had a blast. Yeah, I'd love to come back. Appreciate it, man.
Excellent. All right, guys, we are out of here. Thank you so much for coming, and we will see you later.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks, chat. Have a great one.